In-Class Course Correction by Emily Joines. The target audience for this presentation will be my coworkers, more specifically, the high school teachers utilizing Chromebooks in their classroom to create an online learning environment. Because we are transitioning into a one-to-one classroom in the coming years, it is important to understand how to use online teaching effectively and efficiently. In today's day and age, our learners are becoming more attached to technology and seem to respond well to any and all incorporation of technology in a classroom, as long as it's used appropriately. Analyzing data is becoming increasingly important in Illinois education because of the new requirement to chart and graph student growth. For teachers in Illinois, student growth objectives are now a component of our evaluation. We are required to give a pre- and post-test for each course to demonstrate student learning. By encouraging formative assessments throughout the course, teachers will be better able to track each of their students to make sure they are staying on task and growing with the course. If learners are not moving along with course expectations, it is necessary to make changes during the implementation process. Course correction promotes continued engagement with the content, and consistent feedback helps in the deterrence of student failure. As the length of this online course is projected to extend through a month during the school year, I have listed multiple assessments that have been used or will be used throughout to measure student success. Within this table, the assessments are listed chronologically, with the first assessment being in the top left and the final summative assessment at the bottom right. After each assessment, learners will receive a grade and feedback in a timely manner. Assessments included will require learners to work both as individuals as well as in partners, and require collaboration with classmates in the discussion board. Peer review is required on a project in week 2. The varied assessments allow learners the opportunity to showcase their strengths and creativity when completing the projects. While the instructions for the assessments describe the expectations, they do not state how learners have to reach them, allowing for innovation within the activities. I consider the midpoint of this course to be upon the completion of food organization, during which I will look over all students' current grades to make sure they are maintaining a decent grade prior to going into the second half of the course. If I notice any major concerns that have not yet been addressed, I will address them during this time. When reviewing classes and data, it is important to get the big picture without first creating a negative predisposition about a student. Online learning is more challenging than in-class courses due to the lack of face-to-face time between learners and instructors, learners and their classmates, and possible challenges with learners and the interface. To collect data from this learning is a challenge. It is our job as instructors to protect the rights of our students. Due to the current increase in research for learning analytics, there is not yet an established protocol for collecting data and abiding by a set of ethical guidelines. While there is not an explicit guideline in collecting and using data in a way that protects the learners, research describes 3 ways to encourage this. When collecting data, the interests of the participants should be protected. Researchers should avoid deception and misrepresentation, and participants should give informed consent. I believe no name should be present when displaying data. It should not be used to degrade troubled learners, and learners should have the option to keep their own data between the instructor and themselves. We can, however, use data analytics to track individual time spent on assignments. If students are spending extra time on projects and still not receiving average or above average grades, we might look back and see that corrections and clarifications need to be made in instructions. If students are spending very little time and not turning in a complete assignment, we might want to reach out to them and see why that is. Data should be used only to improve learning through revision and course correction. If instructors are using data to hinder learners, they should reevaluate their purpose. To display the grade sheet, I have created an Excel sheet organizing all assessments along with received grades. I have removed the names to show the table in this presentation. This table displays the current grades up to the midpoint of the course. I have highlighted causes for concern within this class. There are 2 students with either slightly or significantly lower scores on all assignments. The cause for these low scores could be rooted in many things. Learners could not be interested in the content. They might be confused about directions. They might lack self-motivation to complete online assignments. They might not realize the requirements expected of them for each assignment, or they could be absent or have troubles unrelated to this course. In order to find out specifically what the cause for the low scores are, instructors must open up communication, if it's not already open, between themselves and the troubled learners. If learners are not willing to communicate directly with the instructor, it might be beneficial to allow time for a midpoint reflection or journal entry to understand where these learners are coming from. Reflections allow learners to self-assess their work. They might review their projects and notice for themselves that there was a lack of effort or possibly a lack of understanding, either of which can be improved as we continue the course. In the case of this course, we know we have 2 learners scoring lower than expected on almost all assignments. This is partially due to a lack of participation and incomplete grades. After speaking with the students, they clarified that the reason for the lack of effort is due to disinterest in the subject area. Because there are only 2 students in the entire class struggling with assignments, I would not incorporate grade adjustment during this time unless I noticed a larger trend. To help these students finish the second half of the course, I would make a few slight changes in the course. To help with these changes, I will apply Chickering and Gamson's 7 principles for good practice. After having contacted the learners at midpoint, I would set up a schedule to maintain contact throughout the rest of the course. Whether it be through a discussion board or email, I will have twice weekly check-ins with these learners to offer support and extra clarification if needed. Along with clarification and contact, I will clarify the instructions on the upcoming assignments. If I create step-by-step instructions, the learners will have an easier time checking off the components they have completed, encouraging them to complete all sections of the assessments. As the instructor, I would also encourage collaboration with other students. While they might not be interested in the content, it is always beneficial to have classmates to work with and discuss new ideas. These classmates can then be another layer of support during the course for students to make use of. Finally, I would utilize constant feedback to encourage these students. With these course corrections in place, hopefully we can get these learners back on track and headed for success. If nothing else, we have given the learners every opportunity we can to complete this course to the best of their ability. As educators, that is the most we can do.